It's like going on Channel 8. All right, we will officially call the meeting to order. And so obviously I am neither Maria or Terrence. Terrence is, as many of you may know, has joined a new law firm, and they're having an event for him, I think a reception for him as the new partner. And Maria is her longtime associate and assistant. Kathy Craig is celebrating her 70th birthday today, so they're having an event for Kathy.
So she's had way too much time to be here.
That will be the end result of being at the 70th birthday party. So they both send their apologies, but I will do my very best to be tonight's facilitator. So with that, we're going to, without further delay, go ahead and kick off with equity partner updates.
Yes, it appears I'm first.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Good to see everybody. Couple things, probably first and foremost, November 19th, we are putting on this event here at the National Western Stock Show Complex. It is an event that really our concessionaire and us have decided to do for the Elyria, Swansea, Globeville neighborhoods. So, these are the initial things that will be done between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. that day. Everyone that shows up will get served lunch. Everyone that shows up that wants to listen to live music can hear the live music. Free kids' backpacks will be given out to all the kids. Free haircuts, and that's just where we're at today. So we're continuing to garner more partners for this that may want to be giving away things and so forth. We're doing it before the Thanksgiving week, specifically because I think we heard through the grapevine that the Neighborhood Association is not moving forward with the Christmas party here that they typically have had in the past, which was around the middle of December. So when that announcement came to us, we decided we wanted to do something for the neighborhood specifically, so we're doing this, okay? Cool. So anyway, get the word out to as many people in the neighborhoods as you possibly can. I'm happy to run off with our staff more flyers. We'll paper some events we've got coming up for events and so forth. So,
Question.
Yeah.
The free haircuts, are they for just the kids or for the adults too?
it's for anyone that comes.
Yeah, I'm 2 years overdue.
I didn't do it. I told Armando to let his grow. Somebody else is overdue. John said he's not taking advantage of this one.
No? All right.
Okay, let's see. Secondly, obviously the stock show, we're kicking into high gears for the National Western. All of our sponsorship deals are, we close in the next 30 days or we don't get them closed. So the good news is we're having a great year, and I fully expect a very, very good National Western this year. We are proud to say that in 4 weeks I'm heading to Singapore to represent the National Western and the stock show past, present, and future at an event called the Royal Agricultural Society of the Commonwealth. It's where the world gathers to talk about stock shows and fairs, and we've been invited to be a speaker. So I am heading to that and have several speeches across that hopefully puts us more on a global stage with both the stock show and the future of the National Western Center. And I know Kelly is also going to Dubai, so we're trying to hit the whole globe in just a few short trips. Lastly, Denver Rock Island has caused a bit of commotion here at the National Western Complex. We own land along the river that is behind the Lumutan building. And that land, unbeknownst to us until about 5 weeks ago, Rock Island started laying tracks across our land. Would not have noticed it except one of my maintenance crew was down there getting ready for the stock show about this time of year. Rock Island had pulled up all of our cattle tie-outs that were concreted in, threw them aside, and started laying track on our land. Needless to say, we're very upset about this. It's a hostile takeover of our land. We have served them with a cease and desist notice, and frankly, we are not very happy at this point, putting it mildly. For an organization to simply decide they own our land and start laying railroad tracks is unacceptable, and it will be met with great resistance. I bring this up because it also potentially has an impact on the project. And with saying that, Kelly is going to know more about that than me, and so I'll invite any comments he might have, and then we can move on from there.
So in addition to Paul and the stock show sending a letter to Denver Rock Island, which again is a locally owned, what's called a short line railroad, and they move cars from the main freight line carriers, so the UP and Burlington Northern, to businesses. They have about 18 miles of track, most of which is north of Denver, but they run there's a very important connection here to the south of the site that connects into UP, where they pick up cars and then take them to businesses. We have, even before this action, we, the city, have been meeting with Denver Rock Island off and on over the last several months, and we've been very clear from day one of this project, even in advance of the project's adoption and the funding, that our goal was that, rail is such an important part of the history of the site that we wanted to try to preserve that use. We wanted to try to preserve the fact that they do serve an important function in moving cargo and providing different services to companies, but the large freight lines cannot. That we were prepared at the project's expense to consolidate their lines. That has been and will continue to be our position. Subsequent to them laying track, we also sent them, the city through our office, the National Western office, sent a letter to Denver Rock Island, basically giving them two options that they needed to consider. One would be us buying the railroad outright, or proceeding with the consolidation. Jeff Steinberg, who's the head of our division of real estate, and I met with the owners of the railroad yesterday. I am cautiously optimistic. The meeting was positive. They gave us an answer on the spot that they would prefer a consolidation of the rail over an acquisition, which we were fine with. In fact, I made it very clear that was my preference. So our next steps with them are to get a binding development agreement in place that would allow us on a kind of a milestone-based process to move through, hopefully, a progression towards a consolidation. The history of this railroad, unfortunately, is fraught with not following through or not doing what they say they're going to do. So there's a possibility that they don't fulfill, or they come up with some excuse as to why we don't advance the consolidation. That said, we're going to work very, very hard to make that happen. But Paul is right. It has a couple of impacts. One, if the rail does not move out of the way, or that we cannot come to an agreement, there is an option for the city to pursue, which would be acquiring the last customer on the site, which is McDonald Farms at the south end of the campus here, which is one of the larger customers of the rail. We would acquire them. We've already sent them a notice of intent to acquire. That will be a very expensive acquisition on the project's part, and one we did not anticipate. And then we would have to go through a process at the federal level to what's called an adverse abandonment, where we would seek, because they no longer have customers through the site, we could seek an adverse abandonment, and there's a legal process, a procedural process we would go through. But it would affect our phasing. It would push off rail improvements, which are supposed to be in phase one, to a later phase. And it would impact how we approach the bridge development across the river, the new roads, etc. So it would have a big impact. And then lastly, it would really hinder our ability to go after the improvements for the river, because that rail, being able to lay those banks back for the ecological restoration of the river, would be hindered if we can't move that track right away. So we would have to rethink our phasing strategy, and then, in long term, we would hopefully be able to move rail, but it would affect our phase one work. So we're hopeful that cooler heads prevail, and that they're reasonable, and we're prepared. It's not a money issue, it's not a timing issue from the cities, because the money is there to do the work, and we'll just keep you apprised as that happens.
Kelly, how do they justify that action?
Which action?
A hostile takeover? How do they, What is in there? Is it just?
They're a railroad.
Yeah, they haven't been able to give us any firm answer on that AE as far as, I think they believe it is our land and they want to lay track across it. I mean, maybe they think their easement agreement that we signed in the 90s gives them this right. It clearly does not, so.
Just tell us how many you want, where you want us to be, and at what time.
Okay, we'll tear the tracks up ourselves. I like your thought.
Sorry, thank you.
That's my report, unless there's any questions. Thanks. So it looks like
Does
Jocelyn?
your chairman want to say anything?
Anything from you?
Okay.
Pat? Jocelyn?
Test.
You'll be glad to know that it's working. Just a few updates. One is that the CSU Alumni Association participated in a South Platte River cleanup this past Saturday with the Greenway Foundation. There were a lot of folks there, and I think from CSU a team of about 15 people who participated in that day, which I was not able to go, but I heard it was really fun and successful. Along similar lines, I've mentioned this before, but I'm going to hand these out. We have our annual pet wellness clinic, and please take these and distribute them. We've still got most of the spay-neuter slots are getting filled up, although there's a few left. But we do have free wellness and vaccine clinics. Space is still available, so please do let folks know if they're in the area in GES that they can come and pay. We'll be partnering with us again, as well as this time Denver Dumb Friends League to provide free pet exams, vaccines, and for a limited number of folks, spay-neuters as well. Other than that, I think that's pretty much it from the CSU side. So I will hand it back.
Okay, and on the city side or National Western Project side, a couple of announcements. Paul referenced there's a delegation from the city of Denver going to Dubai towards the end of October. I will be attending that trip. I think Amy is attending as well. So there will be an opportunity for us to engage on. Albus is going. It's a big delegation, but be able to talk about global agriculture, equestrian. There's a strong connection to the equestrian world in that part of the globe. So looking forward to carrying our message forward to Dubai and spreading the word about the project. Mark your calendars and we'll get some information out here on a save the date, but I believe November 10th. Downtown, we're going to have an event to unveil the next generation agribusiness econ study that you've heard Gretchen and I talk about. We're finalizing the location details, which we hope to have buttoned up tomorrow, early next week. But that'll be November 10th, probably in the afternoon. We'll push that out through Liz to this group so you guys can attend. But we'll have a couple of panels chatting about Next Gen Ag for the state and setting the stage for future work around Next Gen Ag. The last I wanted to reference is, and I referenced this at the Executive Oversight Committee, is we have started a process within our office. We sent out 140 plus letters this summer to ag associations, many of which are located here in Denver that have national interests. But we have started to meet and do one-on-ones with ag associations and just expose them to the project and talk about their interests, learn a little bit about more kind of where they are and what they might be interested in doing, and just cultivating those relationships early on. And we've got some really good feedback just in the handful that we've started to do, but those will carry on through the balance of this year and into next year as we ramp up additional planning. So I think that's it on our general updates. Okay, so unless there are any questions, yep, go ahead.
Yeah, just two. One, and if I missed it, I apologize. It's been crazy
Hold
couple
on.
weeks for me.
Hold on one second, Abe. We're going to get a microphone to you just because it helps the,
Sure.
thank you.
Why don't you send this to Ann?
So just a couple things. I was looking forward to receiving the list of 120, which I think is 140 now, that you mentioned last CAC meeting that you would provide of the groups that were mailed to, the agricultural associations and that kind of thing. And I think that it's an exciting thing, and I also feel like this is an area where I'd like to find out how we help the advisory committee mature into being part of the brain trust, because I know part of what has been described in this process is focus groups, things, conversations, and this is a moment of germinal transparency that I'm really asking for. And that there have been some people in the neighborhoods that have suggested it would be great if we had more forums out there. I think it's great that people are getting to fly off to Dubai and Singapore and all this. I think it's great, but once again, I have this gyroscope in my gut that says this is exciting, substantial stuff that we should be talking about. I wish we had a wall that had a tree of all the groups that were being approached. Please, let's bring this out into the neighborhoods. Let's, even to the extent of, is there some way we could have the unfolding of the agri report in the neighborhoods? Let's. I mean, I really want to continue for us to look at the center of gravity of the project in some way, and that this is not to say that we shouldn't be doing things downtown. And the last thing I'll say about that is, in the course of the efforts to get the funding for this project, I was and am an advocate to the convention center, or am I saying it right, downtown? The convention center and the neighborhoods being late for us to be doing things back and forth. Let's get people from the neighborhood to go down there and do tours. Let's do joint events. Let's do sequenced events. We need to create these relationships even more so. I mean, you guys are having a great, exciting time in your lives, building the project, going all over the world. But please, let's bring it out more now. There's lots of things we can do, and I'll talk about that more when we do the EPS has been suspended report. So, if you could just, first of all, can we please get that list ASAP?
So I sent it to CRL.
Yeah,
Did that come out already?
so you know what?
Today?
I posted the venue inventory, but I don't believe I posted, I'm double checking, I don't believe I posted the list of, but I will get that on there. The venue inventory is online.
Oh, and in relationship to that, can we have a summary of some of the exciting things? I mean, can you, when you're talking with the folks that respond, is there a way, even if it can't be public, because they may not want this, can we start getting a summary of briefing ideas and concepts? So somehow give us a constellation of the conversations that are happening. Just so you know, over in Globeville and Elyria and Swansea, one of the things we're trying to do is get together, go over these documents, read things that are coming out, trying to get ourselves, lots of people, more and more, to get sort of eclectically briefed on the conversation, so we can then start having more conversations within the structure of the programming. So anything that can become, content around agribusiness and that kind of a thing, I think the time we can do it.
So to answer your question, we did not ask the 5 that we've met with so far.
Yeah.
I would feel I will have to go back to them and ask if they're okay us publishing our summary notes, but going forward I will do that in advance as part of the meeting. I certainly don't have a problem sharing the notes, but I want to go back out of respect for those organizations and ask if they're okay us sharing that information.
Right.
I have a question for Paul, and I know it's related to the stock show, and I know planning started soon after the last one was finished.
Yes.
Before then probably. But I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts or plans for more fundamentally including the neighborhoods, in the National Western Stock Show, and sort of thinking, obviously we appreciate being able to go, but thinking about other more creative or interesting ways to, one, engage, but also represent the community throughout the stock show. And specifically, I know you have the, I don't remember what it's called, but when you come from downtown, the bull.
Parade. The
Parade,
The
yeah.
parade. And there's something very similar in Mexican culture, where you're celebrating a saint or something, and everyone gets on their horse and they ride from a location and they ride through the plaza, and they, and so there's lots of a very large horsemanship community in the neighborhoods. There's lots of kids and families that own horses and are involved in some of the more organized chapter organizations. And I think it would be a possibility to do something like that through the neighborhoods, among other things. So I just want to plant that and just kind of see what you're thinking and see how the plans have been evolving.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm very open to brainstorming that with people as far as those sort of ideas. I mean, we obviously can't think of everything, but mainly on the neighborhood side, I mean, we hire 1,000 people that start work from, December through February at the very least. A lot of times it's November through February and March. And so that's our main, engagement of the neighborhood. And I think, I want to say there's 300 or 400 that are regulars in that Larry Swansea Globeville neighborhood that come back and work for us, and we're very obviously pleased with that number. But we're open. The harder thing on that is going to be food concessions. And I know it's probably on everyone's mind. Those are ideas that always come to us. And unfortunately, we have a contract with the way this business works, we have a contract with a provider of food, and it's an exclusive contract. So they provide all the food. So as much as I'd like to just say, hey, let's go get this vendor that, the Globe Hall barbecue place that's a friend of mine owns now. He'd love to come serve barbecue on here, and I get it. But unfortunately, we have an exclusive contract. So again, as ideas come up like that, if email them to me, email them to Liz, and we can talk about them, and we're very open to that. So, because that's not a bad idea. I don't know operationally whether it would be safe for horses to parade through a neighborhood or not. We got to think through that, but no idea is a bad idea. So very open. Yeah, John.
I think wonderful idea from both of you. The only question I have is time. Obviously, you don't have time for this year. Planning time for this coming stock show. So
Well, it depends on the idea, but
I think there's so many ideas, and I would suggest that we form some sort of a subcommittee so that we can work things out for the coming stock show. We won't have enough time this year. I don't think we will. But for the next coming around, I think we can form some committee and get to work on that, because I think there's wonderful possibilities there. And I haven't seen a contract that can be flexed.
you may not have seen the one that we have with AM. But anyway,
Okay, yes,
very open to that, and
yeah.
we would work that through CRL, just so everybody knows.
Good.
And
And we can
again,
be doing that.
so that'll be Maria and Liz, and thinking through that, and a small committee. I mean, it can't be
No,
20
we don't-
people,
no,
it's
we
got to
don't
be
need
a
that.
small one, so.
Right, I agree. Thank you.
Yep.
And the other, I would add beyond the stock show, as we think about starting to create a year-round place, right? Are there new events? Are there, let's start thinking not just stock show, but how do we attract activity year-round? So and so that should be part of the subcommittee's work, is thinking, is there a way to celebrate food at a different part of the year? And is there more obviously they're operating under a set of conditions that are unique to the site today, and obviously one of the opportunities as we move to the new center, there will be some opportunities for new contracts and new arrangements that maybe create some more flexibility.
Yeah, definitely. I'm in complete agreement with that, and also like understanding that the stock show is kind of like the signature event, so
Right.
including both.
Right.
Both sides.
I've had the idea of calling them the tamale wars, right? And having the best tamales in the planet.
Would be.
I just want to add to her comment in that, these are interesting times for our neighborhood. As Alex can share with you, we're bringing the World Trade Center, and just to expand on her comment there, I think it'd be kind of cool to have the Chato, the local horseman group, whatever they may be, as the part of the National Western Stock Show, the Mexican extravaganza, maybe bring some of that international flair to it through the neighborhood, and then just end up here at the National Western. I don't think we need to go through downtown, but just to be more inclusive and share on the international stage what we got going here, and just to showcase that. Just wanted to comment on that.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'm gonna pass this around to
Oh, okay. All right, great comments. Thank you very much, everybody. So now we're going to move to community representative reports. Drew is not able to be here, so Ann is ably filling in for Drew on the Executive Oversight Committee.
So Drew was able to give me some notes that he took during the EOC meeting, and I'm happy to give this little report. So the first thing that he thought was important to share with the committee was that the Heron Pond Heller Open Space Master Planning Study is going to be kicking off soon. And I know that this is something that's of great interest to all of the people in the neighborhood. And so Chris Proud gave the report. I think, is he with Parks and Rec?
Yes.
Yeah. And so that outreach will be starting soon. So one of the questions that Drew asked on behalf of the neighborhood was, have there been decisions pre-made about this area? Because I know that that's, you know, a concern. And Chris Proud assured him that this discussion is still open and that the community will certainly be engaged in the master planning process. So I'm not sure exactly when that's going to start. I don't know if Kelly has more of a specific time frame to anticipate, so we can,
I think officially, once we get them through contracting and everything, it'll be the first of the year.
first of the year. Okay, so just for everyone to take note of that, I'm sure we'll be hearing more about that soon. The other thing is that Eric Chaffron gave a presentation on campus regeneration. And I guess there's a concept about Earth Overshoot Day, and that is the day of the year that we begin using more of the Earth's resources than the Earth regenerates. And so I think that what the intention is to focus, this is a sustainability thing, and I'm sure that what the intention is for the campus to be more of a regenerator rather than an overshooter. Is that correct?
Turn the clock back. I think he used the word, turn the clock back.
Yeah.
And Jocelyn certainly can speak to that because she's one of the members of that working group.
So that sounds like a really cool concept, and I'm sure that that's one idea. And I don't know, Jocelyn, do you want to talk about that more?
Well, you're doing great.
Okay, well, I will tell you that what they said is regeneration is envisioned for the development and operations of the site, and that one of the things that was discussed, it may have been a question that Drew asked, I think, is that are the communities also being drawn into this idea? So would the neighborhoods be willing to also participate in becoming a regenerator rather than an overshooter? So, and I think some of the other items that was discussed at the EOC are going to be discussed later on in our meeting, so I don't think it would be worth bringing them up. Except, are you going to be talking about the transportation and parking management?
Yes.
Okay, so the rest of it will be discussed. Thank you.
Okay, next will be, yes, sir.
Again, I want to raise the issue about my theory of, a thin line. And would you like to speak to that, Mr. Sapp, as through our conversation relative to Heron Pond?
Sure. I mean, I'm not sure the way you got NWC updates to kind of keep it in the mood, but I'm happy to do it now if you so desire. I'm happy to do it now if you so desire, but there's an NWC update.
Let's do it now. It's relevant now, so let's
It's
just,
relevant now. So
here comes the mic.
So John and I had a conversation last week about really providing the preferred contractor for Heron Pond Master Plan an opportunity to gain a better understanding of the history and legacy of Heron Pond, one, and then two, looking at some of the planning efforts previously done through Councilwoman Debbie Ortega's office, but also with Parks in the past. And so John and I had a conversation about having an opportunity for certain community members that have been a part of that process, whether it was just a historical overview or just engage in some of the planning efforts with parks or with city staff, to have an opportunity to speak with city staff and with the preferred contractor once they get hired on to talk about that scope and making sure that is included into the community outreach efforts.
Well, actually, we'd like to have that done before they hire anybody. And I don't think Heron Pond has discussion ability effort in this group. This group was formed to help work, enhance everything for the National Western Stock Show. Heron Pond is a community issue. We may have some relationships there, but I want to keep that business on that side of the river. That's a neighborhood issue. It's not a National Western issue. The city has been, listen well, the city has been very evasive, reluctant and just a goddamn liar in so many instances, excuse my language. And I think we can need to clear the air once and for all before we engage in any serious discussions with Parks and Recs and Public Works. It's something that's going to cause problems if we don't address it in a reasonable manner. There's enough pressure already over the drainage system that's being shoved down people's throat, and I don't want to bring that to this issue, to this committee. Those are neighborhood issues, and they shouldn't get bogged down here. So whatever's going to happen, it shouldn't happen, since it's here, let's get it out of here, with the community. I suggested to Mr. Sapp that we have a meeting at the Armory. That ground was given to the Armory for $1 when Mayor Webb was mayor, with the understanding that it would be used for community use when available. The Iraq War came out, we had a couple meetings over there, and after that, they were too busy. So anything having to do with Heron Pond should be out of this arena. Whatever relationships there are, we can come back, but this discussion should not take place here.
Thank you. I don't have anything else to add. I mean, duly noted.
Armando,
Wait for the mic.
What, Mike?
Here we go.
It's a race.
Oh.
Who can get it there first?
The COFAX committee has not met yet. We will be meeting this month, October 26th, and we'll be able to provide some updates at that time.
So what? It's a new name.
26.
Just one.
COFAX.
Just name change.
COFAS.
What is that?
we added operations, capital operations finance alignment subcommittee. Okay, AE, EPAS.
Yep.
Why do we call it the mic? Oh, it's a microphone.
Yeah.
Yes.
So why don't we call it Leroy?
We should call it Fred.
So as you can see there, the Events Program Advisory Subcommittee is in suspense. I want to just keep beating the drum. I think and Kelly, it might be a good idea for you to elaborate on the conversations that happened behind the scenes for that decision to be made, because my concern, and it's a heartfelt concern, my concern is that the way the Events Program Advisory Subcommittee was constructed, the intention was created, was not done in a manner that included all of the potentials, for this, because it is based on what is necessary and relevant for creating the policies and the definitions of partnership and the relationships to the long-term eventuality of these magnificent venues, et cetera, that we're going to build, and that's valid. We did make some progress, as people saw in the stock show, stepping up to do an inventory to locate some of the venues that could be available for more near-term events, with the leadership intact to help people do that in a way that responds to all of the requirements. But to me, programming is something that is very tangible in many, I don't know what to call it except for soft programming. We've got the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, Colorado State University, History Colorado, all of the kinds of educational partners that could be doing many things. And I don't feel effective in creating this. I feel like it needs to be a team. We need a strategic task force to look at this and move forward. There's a tremendous amount of things we could be doing with the schools now. Some of it is happening, and I think some of the things Jocelyn, you and I have talked about, maybe we can summon the energy to go further. But I'm just concerned that we're missing the potential, and once again, to me, the localized progress of the content and mission of the National Western Center project, I feel, is much more accessible than we're making it to the immediate populations in these neighborhoods, and in relationship to creating concordant things. There's, with curriculum and that kind of thing. So I'm just kind of trying to beat the drum for us to find that spark. And I generally feel we're looking at a model that is very international heavy, it's all relevant, that's very large agricultural heavy, that is not bringing into the populations to make accessible I'm going to say meat, but I'll say the vegetables and the meat of the agricultural forums that are happening, the big institutional events, And I think we're really underestimating our populations within the 10,000 people within the neighborhoods adjacent to the National Western to respond now to going forward with understanding what agricultural commerce is from within a localized economy. All the projects that are going on are very small, sort of insular, individualized kinds of things. So anyway, I would love to put more programmatic to it, but I feel like I'm Sisyphus at this point. So I just want to express that, and the underlying question is, can we reconstitute the Events Program Advisory Subcommittee into some kind of a strategic task force that makes it more of an engaged and grassroots and participatory timeline? And I definitely think that the stock show can be a big part of that in relationship to what's going on next year. So I'll continue to talk to people with that hope. Oh, good. I don't know if you want to say anything more about the backstory to the EPAS being suspended so people can understand the contract.
Sure. So the co-chairs, excuse me, for the EPAS subcommittee were our two of our founding partners, which were George Sparks from the Museum of Nature and Science, and then Ed Nichols, the former director of History Colorado, and we had a half dozen or so meetings as a committee, and those two guys collectively have a lifetime of experience in strategic event planning. And remember, the intent of the subcommittees were to support the evolution and ultimately the implementation of this project. And obviously, you've been a huge proponent for trying to do more now, and I think we've certainly teed up some spaces where we can do events now. There's nothing inhibiting doing events now. We've even agreed to take one step further and buy some tents and tables and chairs so that there's very little cost for anyone in the community that wants to do an event to do it right now. Tell us when, tell us where, if the space is available, we can do it. That's what that inventory was about. But for long term, it was the judgment of our two co-chairs, who I have enormous respect for, to suspend EPAS until we have more planning underway for the campus, which will happen this next year. So we will start that planning next year as part of our campus placemaking, and as more information becomes available of timing for the campus implementation and the actual spaces that we can plan for, we will then reconstitute EPAS.
So can I just want to take this one step further in linking. Sorry, I'm tempted to yell, but I appreciate that the issues are just strictly having some venues to do events. I get that. I appreciate that. What I'm talking about is the organic process of activating the content, which is the agribusiness, this kind of thing in a more immediate sense, which is not venue dependent necessarily or event dependent. So,
but it is partner dependent.
It is partner dependent, but it doesn't have to be. Well, let me put it this way. One of the opportunities for enriching people's depth of involvement is because it can be partner dependent in the manner of describing the neighborhoods as an engaged partner in a way that I don't think that we've done, that doesn't have to be constrained in the same way as branding partners and legal partners. We're talking about educational activities, there's all kinds of things that are less formal than all of the institutional partnerships. And I think that's where maybe we should take the discussion more outside of the room, because this is a short meeting in a sense. I will continue to have conversations with CSU. I will continue to me, the educational content. There are so many things that can be done with informal education, with helping accelerate the sequencing of development in the urban economies and stuff like that. And I understand that I'm not getting through to the mind of this project yet. I'm going to persist because it does not have to be stopped in its tracks by the institutional concept of partnering and all of the requirements and legals and concepts and the branding and things like that. It will feed into that, and it will enrich, in my opinion, the selection of the branding qualities and the selection, and it will also help mentor people from within the neighborhoods to step up to become more a part of this participation. Yes, it's leading to more governance, more permanent body. But let's mentor people by involving people more with what the intellectual content and the substantive content of learning is out there. That's all. And let's just get specific with each other more between the meetings, maybe to make some things happen. Just to throw that in the thinking.
I don't think there are any organizational issues unless anybody.
No?
needs
All right,
to bring
we
it up.
don't apparently have any organizational issues. We can have a moment of silence for not having organizational issues, unless someone wants to bring something up. All right, being none, we're moving on. All right, updates. So I'm going to ask Barb, where's Barbara?
She's here.
Okay, Barbara's going to, to tee this up, one of the report outs that we did at the EOC recently was the Delgany, and Barbara's going to walk you through the Delgany Interceptor study that we are about to commence, which is it's one example of many of just the complexities that we're trying to deal with on this site and in this region of our city that's got a lot of infrastructure in the way of affecting change, especially on our natural environment. So Barbara's assembled a team and is working both within the city and outside the city to launch this study. So she's going to walk you through the same presentation that she did to the Executive Oversight Committee. All right, Barbara, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, this is working. I will try to go relatively quickly through these, and then we'll have time for questions at the end. So as Kelly mentioned, I'm going to talk about the Delgany Interceptor, and hopefully these slides are showing up. They're going to look a little squished. I apologize for that. I think all of you know the Delgany. It's a dual 72 and 78 inch sanitary pipeline that runs through the campus. And for a good, and basically it's carrying all of Denver, or most of Denver's wastewater, up through the campus to the treatment plant, which is located about 1.5 miles north in Adams County. And if this pipeline were all underground, it wouldn't be too much of a problem for us, but unfortunately there's a 1,900-foot stretch of pipeline right here along the South Platte River, and it's right in kind of the prime location of where this project has the opportunity to open up access to the river. And it's above ground, and so it's a tremendous barrier to accomplishing those goals. This is what the pipeline looks like if you're on the National Western campus looking north. You can see the Denver Rock Island rail line is right here, and this is one of the pipes. You can't see the other one so well. And now I guess there's more rail.
Where that white fence is.
You're looking at a picture. Yeah, you're looking at a picture before they ripped out those cattle tie-outs, right?
Oh, see,
So-
there it is.
So, very ironic that you have that picture up. My blood pressure is going up as we
And
sit.
you need to go stand right here and keep them from building.
In the spirit of recognizing our Western heritage and culture, isn't that apply pretty much so what the railroad's been doing for over 100 years?
There you go. Frontier justice.
Yes.
Okay, continue, sorry.
Good to have some fun with sanitary lines. And so just to give you a sense of what it looks like if you haven't been out there in a while, this is a view of the pipeline from the west bank along the South Platte River Trail here runs along the west bank. And so if you're looking east toward the National Western, it's actually pretty hard to see the pipeline in the summertime because of all the vegetation. I had to ride all along the South Platte River Trail in order to catch a glimpse of it. This is a little bit further downstream, so further north, and I don't know if you can see it here. This is looking again at the National Western. You can see the water tower in the back, and then I colored it red here so you can get a glimpse of what that looks like. But the thing is pretty darn big.
So that metal building, so there's the water tower, but that metal building is actually part of the Denver Rock Island Railroad Maintenance Facility. So they own a piece of land right on the river. which would be a piece of the land that we're trying to get back, again, to open the river up.
And then the other thing to notice about this is how steep these banks are. This isn't a place where you can just go walk up to the river and dip your toes in. It's actually not accessible at all, even if you're standing on the banks. It's about a 25-foot drop between where the pipe sits and the water. So this is just to give you a sense of, sorry, these all got squished. But anyway, master plan has given us some pretty good guidance here. Again, big ideas, goals to open up access to the river, moving rail off the river, as we talked about earlier, building National Western Drive a little bit closer to the river to actually give folks access to it, improving river habitat and health, creating recreational trails, and then also one of the 9 guiding principles is engaging the river and nature, which gives us a little bit more detailed guidance about creating campus-wide connections to the river, treating stormwater on site, aspiring to create net zero or net positive impact for water quality and quantity, providing watershed education, and generally considering impacts to the South Platte River throughout the project. So here's the thing. At the time that the master plan was written, and Eric Anderson is in the room, he knows this very well because he wrote the master plan, so we can ask him if you have any questions about this. There wasn't a whole lot known about what it would take to relocate the Delgany, and the master plan ended up not making a commitment really either anyway. It said bury or relocate it. And when it came to building out the cost model for the project, what ended up happening was the idea was that it would be buried. And that's just because it's more of it seemed more of a regional problem than a local problem. It wasn't known if it's even feasible to relocate just a segment of it. The costs weren't known, and so we had some...
And the city doesn't own the pipe. It's owned by...
There you go. The city doesn't own the pipe. It's not... We don't know what the upstream and downstream impacts are of relocating the pipe, so there's just so much unknown information that at the time, we looked at options for keeping the pipe in place. And what would that look like? Could we still reach some of our goals of providing access to the river and providing that kind of connection to nature with the pipe in place? And so we did a few studies to show what that experience might be like. So you see here the rail has now turned into National Western Drive and the bike lane and a sidewalk. You can see Ron Williams standing right there. Where's that Paul?
I don't think it's me.
Somebody.
Some grassland, and of course the pipe's there, but it's buried. And you can almost imagine that this could happen because as we saw on the west side of the river looking east, you don't even notice the pipes there when the leaves are in place. And then the team looked at a really kind of more creative option of, there's this trend now in cities of turning dated and blighted infrastructure into kind of creative placemaking opportunities. And so an example of this is the High Line in New York, where a rail bridge, a very long rail bridge, which really blighted a community and created barriers in a community for a very long time. Instead of tearing it down, which they didn't have enough money to do, they turned it into a linear park, and now it's one of the most beloved parks in the city and a huge tourist destination. And so what if we took that idea and turned this pipe into some sort of public art? And so the symbology here is that it's painted red. We're not saying that that's what would happen, but maybe it's some sort of community-focused public art that actually serves as an attraction instead of a detriment. Of course, then that didn't answer the question of giving people access to the river, so here's an example of how, say, boardwalks or overlooks could be created to the River Greenway and therefore achieve that goal. So this was kind of a thought experiment. Okay, what could happen if we kept the pipe in place, and is it doable? In the meantime, the Army Corps of Engineers has been working on a long-range project to look at river restoration opportunities along the South Platte. And they're looking at a 4-mile stretch of the South Platte going from 6th Avenue up through Adams County. This is really a long-range project. We don't know if and when it will ever be approved. We don't know if and when it will ever be funded. But we're tracking it because National Western is in Reach 2 of the project. And so we want to see if there's anything we can learn from this as it's going on, and if there's any chance that the timelines might align, then maybe there's some additional money coming from the Army Corps for this, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So they're looking primarily at ecosystem restoration, reducing flood risk, and recreation. They're also looking at how to move the sanitary lines. And so one thing we've learned is that there might be an opportunity to move just the segment of the Delgany that's in the National Western campus area. And so that makes us think, okay, we need to take a second look at this and study this further. So as I mentioned, the Army Corps study itself doesn't necessarily align from a timing perspective, and I'm putting it here just to fit it on the slide. It could be 10, 15 years away. And so we're looking at this as whatever happens here on the river, the National Western Project is likely the one to implement it. So what does that mean for us? The other thing I want to mention is that, actually I want to go here first. As you all know, CSU's Water Resources Center is slated to be on the riverfront, right at the intersection of Betty Cram Drive and National Western Drive. And so whatever happens along the river, whether or not the pipes move away, whether or not the rail moves away, it's going to deeply impact the site constraints for the CSU's Water Resources Center. And so we're keeping that in mind as we go along through this. And then the other piece, this is a diagram that CSU created to, I know it's a little bit hard to read, but basically there's an opportunity to capture heat from those pipes. And this is something that both Metro Wastewater and the city are very interested in. And this diagram shows, what if we capture heat from the pipes, use it to heat the campus, maybe heat some greenhouses that then are growing food that is sold on the public market. And so it's kind of showing this cycle of innovative partnerships around this cycle of energy, and there's similar potential with water. And so we're keeping those ideas in mind too as we look through this, do this study. So just study objectives include understanding the long-range infrastructure opportunities, and this is coming from Department of Public Works and Metro Wastewater and the Urban Waterways, the Army Corps study. So that's not something that we're necessarily going to work on. But looking at the National Western Center's specific implementation regarding the Delgany, and making sure that whatever solution we come up with fits within the construction and financing schedules for the project. Identifying opportunities to recover heat from the pipes to heat the campus as a renewable energy source. Developing opportunities to leverage funding, partner funding for this. It could be Army Corps, could be other partner funding. And then of course informing development of CSU's Water Resources Center. So we put together a really great internal and an external team to help figure this out. This study, we want to get an answer to this relatively quickly. So we're looking at doing procurement and finding a consultant by the end of October and having hopefully an answer by the end of March. I think that's it.
Questions for Aura?
I wanted to mention one thing. What will happen is the results of the study will be presented to the Executive Oversight Committee, and then they're the ones that will, and also to you, and really inform and guide the decision making regarding the pipeline as well as the impacts it has on the riverfront.
Yes, sir.
I have several questions.
I'll do my best to answer.
Please. One thing that we should be aware of is that whatever endeavor we undertake relative to the Allegheny line, let's not make a mistake. I don't know what the Army Corps of Engineers has in mind. I've heard all kinds of things, and maybe I fudged a little bit during the election by saying that the Corps is going to redo the whole riverbank there, you know, but it passed anyway, so that's fine. One of the things, is it feasible to move it? And I think maybe we ought to, if we can move it, then I think we ought to move it, because that would give it more slope to the bank. It's pretty steep there in some areas. I don't know where that line actually comes in across the river and where it goes out. Could you go back to
Yes. Let me see, I don't have a good photo. It's really hard to read those.
You had some with some red lines earlier.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I think it's like the very first one. You know, this is very conceptual and it's very oversimplified. There's other sanitary lines in here as well.
So it actually comes through on the east bank of the river.
Yes, it comes from the east, it crosses to the west on the north side of the campus, follows the west all the way almost to the treatment plant, and then crosses to the east again, right at the treatment plant. And do you know where McDonald Farms is and the blue silo? It kind of daylights right just north of there.
Where the old sheep bridge is.
Yeah.
Oh, so down here though, I'm talking about, it
Yeah.
comes up.
But that's
up
on the
right
east
here.
bank there.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it would be simple to run it down Brighton Boulevard and north.
We think that the best option is potentially putting it under the National
The
Western
new National
Drive.
Western Drive.
Underneath
Because,
everything.
yeah.
Here, okay.
Because Brighton would be rebuilt before
Yeah, that's true.
then, and it's already
So,
done.
so it's on the east bank there, so it would stay on the east bank as it is now.
We don't know this because we haven't studied it, but we think that we can go underground and just tie into this existing
Siphon.
siphon. That would be the plan, is to tie into existing infrastructure. Because we don't want to
Where-
go
where-
underground all the way up here. We're not building a line all the way to the treatment plant.
Okay, so where it crosses the river there, what's that approximate location?
Just south of the marijuana
where
facility, the warehouse.
Denver Rock Island Maintenance Facility is.
So that's right by the armory.
The armory is going to be on the west bank.
Yeah. So that's
It's not far.
not far from there. So it ties into the old sewage plant.
And then
Yes.
continues up to the new facility.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I have a question. Who owns it?
Metro Wastewater?
Okay, because you said you didn't own it.
Yeah, Metro Wastewater owns it.
And we're working very closely with them on this. We're actually working on getting an MOU in place with them. Sorry, I'm supposed to use this. And also, they're reading our scope of work, they're giving us comments. They're doing similar studies for the National Western Campus related to heat capture. So we're working hand in hand, and because we can't do anything without their board's approval.
Is this the area that was, the Westford did a story on, about the city moving the people that were camped out?
Yeah.
Yes, down by McDonald Farms, down below where McDonald. So McDonald Farms were the blue silos. They're not blue anymore. They're gray. The gray silos are roughly down in that space.
So by the river?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't see that.
There's a bunch of invasive species and trees that created the canopies under there, and so they were living under those canopies, is my understanding. I never went down there, but
There's a lot of homeless
stuff going on.
activity along the South Platte River all the way between downtown and.
All the way up to through Adams County, till you get to Suncor.
So it doesn't fit.
Okay. All right, I'm going to go as fast as you want me to go, and I'm going to go a little just out of order in terms of when things are happening. So I'm going to give you predominantly updates on procurement. So the first is project reporting, and we issued all these RFPs, which are called requests for proposals, were issued through the city through a competitive bidding process. But project reporting is about, we have a lot of different colors of money on this project, or flavors of money. Local, state, ultimately probably federal. As example, we have 2 flavors of state money. One that will come through House Bill 1344 to fund the CSU facilities through what's called Certificate of Participation, and then the RTA money through the state EDC. So, and shocking, different reporting requirements for each of those kinds of money. So this project reporting team, they will have 2 people embedded within the Mayor's Office of the National Western Center, and we're very close to making a selection, but our goal is to start issuing some initial reports before the end of the year, and then we will start cranking out. We have a long list of requirements in terms of when we need to do our reporting. We would do some reporting out to this group as we start to flow project money, budget versus actuals, those sorts of things, and then we have a ton of reporting to council, the mayor, governor, etc. So they'll be in place before the end of the year. The next is project strategic communications and marketing. So we have a unique opportunity to brand the campus as its own thing, and tell the story to a lot of different stakeholder groups and produce materials to do that, local, regional, national, and international. We have interviews, I believe. We had 11 proposals submitted. We will interview 4, and then again, probably by middle to late October, make a selection of a strategic marketing communications team, and one of their deliverables, our hope is at this year's stock show, is to launch a new project website just for the campus, and really start to direct people to that website, and all new kinds of collateral materials to help tell the story about the project. The next is Brighton Boulevard. There's a proposal or an RFP that went out for doing 100% design from basically 44th, so just south of the highway, up to Race Court, which is just north of the site here, or just north of the new transit station that will open as part of the North Metro line. We had 2 proposals submitted. We have, via an interview, I think they have identified the selected firm, and they have now started negotiations with that firm to do 100% design. And why we accelerated that is our goal, and it's still a goal, is to try to finish the improvements for Brighton Boulevard from 47th to Race Court to align with the opening of the North Metro line station. So instead of having RTD do the transit station improvements and then have us come in months later and tear it all up and then rebuild it, we said, geez, what would it look like if we did it together? So we're working really hard to get the design done and then align those improvements again from 47th to Race Court, completed as part of the North Metro line station opening sometime in 18. Summer or fall of 18. And then we will hand off the design from 44th to 47th to CDOT, and whoever their development partner is would then build 44th to 47th as part of the highway project. Questions on that? Okay. Yes, sir.
As far as the station goes, will you try to heavily influence it in some Western motif decorations to complement the National Western?
So the question was about, will we try to heavily influence? We were given, so the short answer is yes to a point. The good news is the station of what RT actually owns is actually very small. I mean, it's only about 6 acres where the actual train platform is, and then just to get off the platform, our ability as part of the National Western project to have Western themed sort of experience will dominate just the little platform that the RTD has. But we did come up with RTD some, I'll call it Western sort of theme as part of the station canopies themselves. and then we'll pick it up and from there and tell the rest of the story.
Are they reluctant? or
No,
they-
no, they just, we got to choose, there were like, I'm gonna get this wrong, but let's say there were 5 options to choose from in terms of what the station or train canopies would look like, and we picked the one that was the most western looking, and then there actually showed some, and I haven't seen this in a while, but they showed some kind of art that would look, have aspects of the station feel like they were cattle gates. You know, there's kind of a theming to it around cattle and the Western experience. So it wasn't that they were opposed, it was, there was a limited template you could choose from.
And they're not willing to expand on that?
Well, we will.
Okay, whatever happens there, it should reflect not only the Western theme,
Yeah.
but also the cultural
Correct.
theme of all, the entire neighborhood around, because there's a wealth of so many different heritages in and around the National Western.
And John, we will pick that up as part of our campus placemaking study, which we will kick off this next year, and you will have this committee and the community as a whole will have a heavy influence over that experience when people arrive.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, yes, Ann.
Make a comment to that, that RTD always does public art
Yep.
at every station
Yep.
stop, and that's an opportunity
Yep.
as well
Yep.
for it to be Western related.
And we've talked a lot about the history of the community and, you know, industry, and so and we're just not at that process yet, or step. Okay, let's see, Bright Boulevard program. Okay, camp, last one is a program we issued. So program management is a team that we will select that will really provide the horsepower, no pun intended, to help us advance the project towards implementation. You know, we are a team of 8, and they're gonna help add to that team actually to move towards implementation. That RFP was issued last Wednesday, the 21st. We have a pre-bid conference tomorrow. Our goal will be to, there'll be a lot of interest in that RFP. Our goal will be to get to a short list before the end of the year, and then I think a notice to proceed in early February of next year. And then we'll start to ramp up, working towards all the campus placemaking and then preparing for project implementation after that. But we will, once they're selected, they will start attending these meetings and we'll do a report out to this committee on the progress of the project from a technical perspective, keeping people informed. The last is campus placemaking. This will get issued either late this year or early next year, and we're deliberately staggering the release of that RFP so that the program team is selected, because ultimately the campus placemaking team will be managed by the program team as we move forward. And almost everyone in this room participated heavily in the master planning process for the National Western, so think about that experience. Remember how many times Eric came back and we went through and got ideas from this committee. So we're going to take that initial master plan from 50,000 feet down to about 10,000 feet, and we'll work through a process. That'll be a year-long planning effort. So part of the program team with the campus placemaking team, once they're selected, will be laying out a schedule for the CAC and all the various public meetings we'll have to inform everyone under the sun about what the next iteration of planning looks like. And we'll get into some nitty-gritty about design standards for the campus, what do the spaces feel like between the buildings, some facility programming we have to do as part of our Regional Tourism Act application. So I'm preparing you for another wave of planning meetings, not unlike what we did as part of the original master plan. Questions about that? This is where it gets really fun, because it's getting real. It's getting very real. Okay. Okay, I think that, and I already talked about the Denver Rock Island. We'll keep you all informed about where we are with Denver Rock Island as that advances. But I think that's it for my updates. And now I'm going to turn it over. I think who's doing Todd? Oh, Chris. Chris Pacheco is going to do the update on 47th Avenue Bike Lane update.
Hello everyone, my name is Chris Pacheco. I'm with the NWC-CAC. I'll give you an update on the 47th Avenue bike lane project.
I'm going to switch out mics for you.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a louder one there.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
There we go, now it's-
Mike, close my mouth.
Mic check.
Might be better. So, where are we at with the 47 pipeline? First, let's talk about where it started from. It stems from the Valeria Swansdale neighborhood plan, which states that we create a more likable Valeria Swansdale, so which comes up with 47th Avenue pipeline. So, what that is the project limits stem from Clayton to Brighton Avenue, Brighton Boulevard, along 47th Avenue. What we do here is, this provides the most direct route to the neighborhood, and, sorry, just blanked out there. Swansea Elementary and Larry Melez Perry Library. Hold on, having a little technical difficulty here. So, what we have up on top is the current cross-section of 47th Avenue. So as you see, we have 2 lanes of traffic and parking on both sides. What we want to go to is to keep the 2 lanes of traffic, eliminate parking, and put a bike path on each side to provide safe biking corridor. So what we did is we started our public outreach with this project sometime in early March with just an NWC town hall meeting. And then we followed it up with various mail flyers, things like that. And then we had 2 additional town meetings or individual meetings for the project itself. So as you see, we had one in July 20th, 2016, and another one August 9th. So what stemmed from that was that we basically heard that general support for the project was gained. There were some concerns with parking. There was also concerns with sidewalk and other things, but kind of went through and addressed them as best we could for this project.
Sorry, Mike.
Time to fix
There
the
we go.
laptop.
There we go.
That's my laptop.
So where are we going from here after this? So our goal is to get this project striping done late October of this year. So with that, we're going to do a temporary striping. What that means is it's kind of just a striping that's water-based and is easily removed. We did that because later on next year, we've identified 47 to be repaved. So once we repave it, then we'll put a more permanent painting and striping system in there to go with the whole area.
Chris, is there an intent to do B-cycle as part of that?
Not at this point, no. This is just to provide the access.
Okay.
And city.
Yeah.
I don't know if you.
Travis?
mentioned-
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Is it turned
Mr.
on?
President.
I don't know if you, check 1, 2, 1, 2.
It's
Green
still
light.
Oh, hello.
There you go.
Okay, there we go. I don't know if you already mentioned this already, but your outreach, can you talk about it a little bit? The reason I'm asking is along 47, about 6 months ago, I was spending some time with some neighbors over there who were very concerned about the parking. And if it was a community meeting, I'm pretty sure that they weren't there. But I'm just wondering if you reached out along 47 and going door to door.
So our biggest, people who had the biggest concern about the parking were the owners of Chancho's Liquors. They were at the last meeting. So we actually met with them individually, me and Mr. Sapp and a representative from Public Works to discuss how we can work with the parking in front of their business. So what we did there is instead of taking away parking in front of their business, we actually did what we call a share, which is basically what you see where there's kind of a mix between bikes and cars, but still allows parking. So we were able to address their needs and concerns for parking for their business.
So, no neighbors though?
There were some neighbors at the last meeting as well. They didn't seem to be concerned about parking for their
Did they live on
neighborhood access.
47?
They did. Someone did live on 47. There was one individual who was concerned, but he had parking on one of the side streets, so
Okay.
he was understanding of the project. But he did address the concern, so I don't want to diminish that. He was concerned.
So late October of this year, you guys are gonna start with the installation?
That is correct.
So possibly, I'd be willing to do this, and maybe Mr. Sapp as well. We can, once it's been, since it's gonna be temporary, because it's gonna be repaved, we can go door to door and talk to some of those neighbors once it's been installed, and see if there's any concern.
And that's kind of a benefit of doing the temporary system. You know, hey, if this isn't working, can we, we can revision this area. But right now,
Back in
that's
case
kind
you
of
want to
where
make any final.
Is there a lot of parking now? I mean, I'm looking at the aerial, and it doesn't seem like a lot of people actually park.
Not a lot of people park there, but the whole corridor does have parking, so I don't want to, again, there is parking there, and we're going to be getting rid of it, so. But again, it provides safe bicycle passage for students who cross there, every day.
Mhm.
So, I was at some of the public meetings on this, and I do think that there are some kinds of concerns, and I do appreciate the temporary measures, and I do think that they've been responded to in some sense, in many cases effectively by the city, and I do think that this area is a good example of trying to be very comprehensive about the conversations, and I'm trying to remember who told me this, whether it was somebody in the city or in the neighborhood, but I wanted you to address I was told that the city had considered delaying the bike paths along East 47th, partly in relationship to the eventual build of the East 47th Avenue safety bridge that's being worked on, or if there was a relationship between that and the parking. And I just want everybody at the CAC to know that I think this is an in-depth conversation that needs to happen in the neighborhood, and when you look at it and see whether people park there or not, I think there's so many different ways that the parking is used. It can't necessarily be done with a photo. You have family events, you have one christening, you have one reunion, you have, there's the dynamic of being in a neighborhood. We really have to look at this deeply. So if there's any update on the relationship to the progress on East 47th Avenue and your safety bridge, and I don't know, Michael, you're at all the meetings too, so you may have some insight into what I'm asking. But I understand, is this where the temporary idea came from? Or is this because it's being repaved and it's temporary?
It mostly stems from the repaving, but it does, again, it helps us at least study it for that first year to see if it's a good working project. And if something's not working, we can look to change it at that time, next year. So, but as far, 47th New York is concerned, it does relate just because of the location of it. 47th New York Ped Bridge is in that area, so it does relate to that. Once that bridge goes up, it'll make the area even more bikeable, so that it will get more kids, more individuals biking the area. So.
Michael's been waiting.
Yeah, there must be a fly over there. Okay.
Got a few bugs over there hitting both you and Michael, don't we?
So if you want, not too far. So feel free to go to the website. We have a bunch of information there to discuss the project and how we're going. So, are there any other questions?
Okay, Thomas, you want to say, do you have anything you want to report on?
No, sir.
No report outs. And I apologize, there was one RFP I forgot to mention, I think you specifically brought it up. And that's the regional transportation study that we'll be doing for the National Western. Based on the schedule I have in front of me, we're hoping for a notice to proceed in early December. So we're in the contracting process right now. And then that'll be another 9 or 10 month process to talk about transit and transportation and how we move people around these neighborhoods specific to this project. But I think there's some really exciting opportunities to collaborate with some of the new developments, RTD, et cetera, to make parking and the movement around this part of the city much better than it is today as part of that study. So anyway, more to come on that once we get the firm selected here in early December. That's the last we have. Anything for the good of the order? John?
Question, I have a question.
Yep.
Kelly, are you aware of what the Army Corps of Engineers is doing at the present time? And if there's anything available, could we have, I don't know if they're doing a preliminary study or, I don't know what they're doing.
So the question was about the U.S. Army Corps, and it's a 3-year study. They, I believe, are halfway through. That is being led, obviously, by the Army Corps in collaboration with Public Works. Pete Bartline in Public Works is helping lead that effort, along with the Greenway Foundation and a lot of other folks. So, I don't have the specifics because I don't manage that project, but what we could do is have Pete come and provide an update maybe at our October session or a session before the end of the year to give a status on where the Army Corps is.
If everyone agrees that.
I mean, there's 2 parts to it. There's one just getting to the recommendation. It's called the Chiefs Report that takes it up to DC. And then I think once it's approved and it's competing for obviously other reports in the country, then it's the God knows when it gets funded by Congress question, right? Congress has not passed a budget in a decade. They've been running our government by continuing resolution. So there might be an opportunity to talk to our senators and others.
That's specifically why I'd like to have that information.
All right, well, let us work with the team to see if Pete or someone can provide an update.
The iron is hot now for political.
Right, agreed.
Yes.
Even if the Senate and the Congress passes this, we have a big check to write to match.
Yeah. It's in the hundreds of millions of dollars.
So it's a hard deal.
All right. Yes.
I would just request that you give I was trying to load the city budget up here to just give the reference point for the NWC-CAC budget and try and give you a concordance or something. I'd like the group to know what the city budget process is now. Is it all relevant to anything going into the National Western Center office? Can you give the figures for what the total application is? Can you kind of, there's a lot of confusion and I've been too exhausted to straighten it out. How much money is being applied for? How's it broken out? Is there engagement money that's going to go directly into creating some engagement infrastructure between the neighborhoods and the growing institutional and that kind of thing? The budget process is happening now.
I am happy. So we just presented to City Council, and Anna gave the presentation on the NDCC, and I did NUCO, the National Western Office. And I think out of respect for this group, I'm not prepared to do that tonight, but happy to do it in October and walk through. Obviously, the bulk of our funding is coming from 2C. There is some general operating dollars that do flow to the NUCO office for covering staff and what have you, but I'm happy to do that at next month's meeting.
And in the interim, I was at that budget hearing and just did a quick memo for sort of internally for our office, and I'm happy to put that into a form and either send it to you or I'll probably just send it to CIC if that'd be helpful.
Which of the budget hearings were you?
I was just at NDCC.
They were together.
They were together.
concurrent.
NDCC and National Western Center were together last week, I believe.
Yeah.
At the very least, the public information that we can get is the slides that you all
That we presented to council.
Yes.
Would be very helpful.
And those are right on the website.
I have to admit that I was waiting for some kind of a prompt in the email, because in the first couple of years of this body, there was really good stuff that, this is what's coming before City Council, could you help support the master plan? And I think it would be great if there's public hearings, NWC, NWC is on the agenda, and I just think there's a little loss of momentum in that engagement, and I'm not sure how far it goes, but it is hard to keep up. And we had one presentation, I think it was by Barb Frommel, that was a pretty good project, sort of isolating projects prioritization, and I thought there was going to be another step in getting more specific into advocacy out of this group, into the NUCO budget, or into some of these things. So I just feel like it's an area of elevating the briefing and the functionality of this group relative to that mechanism. So I'm not sure how to go
I'm
forward.
going to respond like this. The budget is so complex. It's a 12-month process, and we've got to start thinking like that. So, City Council, as president, I'm doing it completely different for City Council. We're starting in January for the 2018 budget. So, I think this group should start on the same process and start with us. Because if you're not along for the whole entire process, it's just very complex. And so,
Totally agree, Alvis, and I just on behalf of the historical framework, there were numbers of us, and myself included, who did approach the whole process very early on. I ended up going to 4 different city council people a couple months ago before anyone was able to give me the actual timeline. Many of the city council people didn't even have it. I appreciate that you're stepping up now, and it's not for lack of trying. That I think we all need to make progress in this arena, and this is part of matching the energy. It's pushing the information out to help, so that so much seeking in to get it isn't left up to us that are kind of out here trying to find the energy. So heck, if you can put out a timeline for us to all have, I even made a copy of it when I found it to give it to some of the city council people who couldn't find it themselves. It's gotten that bad. So thank you for stepping up, and the effort has been with that awareness, and now you can help us with it.
Okay. Any other comments? Oh, yes.
I have a fun public comment
That's
closing.
Great,
But
excellent.
closing if you're the last person.
Oh, if
You're
I-
buying the first round?
if I'm the last person. But I have public comment. In light of the affordable housing conversations and concern about displacement in Globeville, Leary, and Swansea, good news. Habitat for Humanity is celebrating our 100th home repair. Our home repair is our home preservation program that is designed to help residents of Globeville, Leary, and Swansea stay in the neighborhood. So that's 100 families who are able to stay here. And we're planning to do 50 in 2017.
Good.
So we're celebrating that 100th home in November, and we'll invite all of you.
Great.
Van Hayes.
So, can people volunteer?
Yes.
Yes, so I think that's
Yes,
something
we
you
work
should tell us
with
about.
15 to 20 volunteers in Globeville, Leary, Swansea every day of the week except for Sunday. And I'm a good person to email, so you can reach out to me and I'll connect you to the right person.
Great.
Thanks.
That's
Ann.
awesome.
When you announced this section, good humor, you used the term for the good of the order, and I'm not sure if everybody that's listening understands this is the community input section on the agenda. That if anybody wanted to make a comment, just so you know.
Okay.
Because you said now for the good of the order, I got it, but
Sorry, I'm a parliamentarian at heart.
just so everybody knows, if anybody wants to, because this meeting technically, it goes to 7:30, and for some reason I have people, it seems like people are jumping up and trying to get out of here. The agenda states 7:30. So all this, that's not directed at you.
Oh, I didn't take it as
Okay, good. Because
Does no one like
to the
their time
table.
back? I love to run efficient meetings.
Yeah, I do, but I want to make sure everybody understands that, see you, Juan. But anyway, I just want to make sure anybody here that wants to make a comment, I just didn't know.
Okay.
If
No,
I want to make a public comment.
Yes, sir.
Not a comment, inquiry. Mr. Brooks, Elvis. Elvis, how you feeling?
Oh, thank you. I'm feeling great.
Are you?
Better than before.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
Way to go, Elvis.
Yeah.
All right. Oh,
That's
come.
Elvis.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah,
please.
absolutely.
Oscar,
Oh, hold on, sorry. Okay.
Hello, my name is Oscar Gomez. I live on 4741 Brighton Boulevard. Just to comment a little bit on the bike lane, if that's okay.
Please.
Is it possible that we could put more effort on the 47 and York pedestrian bridge before we go ahead on the bike lane, just to be more safer? I was one of the parents that presented 285 signatures to the NWC-CAC. So I really want to put this in the table to see if we could put more effort, so it would be much safer before the bike lane comes along. Thank you.
Anna, do you want to comment on that, or Chris? Or
Yeah, well, I'll let Chris take sort of the bike timing part of that, and then I want to address Oscar, the the other part of that question.
So basically on the timing, we have to put in the bike lanes either way. They kind of go hand in hand. So the 47th bike lanes are just cheaper. As a matter of fact, they don't even come out of the NDCC budget. They're part of the Public Works just painting budget signs. So it's really no funding difference in that regard. So that helps you on that, Oscar. Does that make sense?
Go ahead.
No,
I would add, I would add, Oscar, one of the challenges with the PED Bridge is, and under Anna's leadership in NWC-CAC, we did not get a grant to help fund the bridge, but that has not deterred the team from finding ways to step up and get that bridge designed, and then continue to seek funding to get it built. And it would be it would be unfortunate if we waited to put those bike lanes in, because we don't have a funding strategy yet for that bridge. So I think, having formerly been the director of NDCC, to the extent you're no longer waiting to have improvements done in your neighborhoods like bike lanes or sidewalks or whatever it is, I'd rather see them get put in incrementally, and then we're going to keep, and that actually helps us apply more pressure, whether it's the feds or others, to try to get this bridge built. So it's a strategy, but there's so much to do in these neighborhoods. Let's try to make the incremental improvements now, knowing full well that we've got to put pressure on a lot of people to get the bridge built.
And if I could just tag on to what Kelly said.
Use the mic.
On the, with regard to the grant itself, we did not, as you all know, get the Federal Railway Authority grant, administration grant, but that does not have any negative repercussions on our absolute 100% dedication to move this effort forward. Oscar, AE, we understand it's such a high priority. Barb Frommel and I have come up collectively with, I think, 4 scenarios right now that we think we can continue to push forward. We want to test those, see which ones of those are real, talking to the philanthropic community, talking more with city council, talking more with folks about how can we make this so. So please, I just want to emphatically iterate to everybody that the grant funding didn't come. We'll apply for the same grant again next year. We will do absolutely, we'll look under every rock and under every nook and cranny to find the funding for that, because it's not lost on anybody in this room what a critical investment that is. So I just want to say that out loud. Thank you.
Kelly, indulge me just a moment?
Sure.
But I want to take this time.
Let's get the microphone for you, though, just
Okay.
so we can make sure it's...
There's one here.
Okay.
I just want to take this time to thank Oscar for being here this evening.
Yeah.
I got my eye on you, Oscar. No, I've seen Oscar at several meetings, and it's a maximum effort for him to be here. And I think that kind of reflects the spirit in our neighborhoods. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Unless there's anything else.
Oscar, do you want to say anything about the sale? Do you want to say anything about the sale?
Sale?
October 1st?
Turn it on.
Test. The group of the parents over at Swansea Elementary School, we're doing a fundraising on October 1st. Yard sale, we found some donations that it's going to benefit the school. So we from 8 to 2, and we just want to encourage more people to come out and help support the fundraising so we could have funding inside our school for the use of our children.
That's this Saturday?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What time?
From 8 to 2.
8 to 2.
At
And we'll be sending you a flyer.
At Swansea Elementary School over at the playground.
At the playground.
If there are items to donate to the group, is that acceptable, or are you guys?
We have a donator that's going to donate a lot of garage stuff, and yes, anything would be helpful too, and we just want to get rid of everything cheap and get those funding inside the school.
And I think you're accepting additional donations beyond the sales.
Additional donations on the sale, it's going to benefit the 100% of the school, so thank you.
So if people have things to donate, do you want them dropped off at the school on Friday?
It's tomorrow.
That would be tomorrow.
There's no,
We don't have a place to put everything at this moment, so we're just going to have everything delivered to us on Saturday morning.
So bring it early Saturday morning if they have items to donate.
Correct.
all right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay?
Yeah, I wanted to quickly add, I want to make sure the capacity that is there. There was a huge donation of materials to the school. So Oscar, I want to make sure is the capacity there to accept additional physical donations for sale? Or is that truly acceptable? I just want to make sure is that truly acceptable in terms of moving them and making sure the dairy can be cleaned off afterwards? Because we want people to come by and buy this stuff too. If you want to make sure 100%, do you feel confident in that?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. And then around the corner from that, for those that are driving down East 46, there's a major mural project under the viaduct. So from 10 to 2, to try and make it more palatable for the neighborhoods. And if anybody has used paint of any sort, rollers or anything, there is a need for some more paint. We're going to have some kids over there painting and that sort of thing. So if you guys want to get a hold of me on that right now, we'll come around, we'll get that stuff tomorrow.
One last announcement. The Grow House, in partnership with Eat Denver, is putting on their annual fundraiser Harvest Week. So this year it's happening October 16th through the 20th, with each night having a different theme. I can share out the details with you all, but if you like to eat and you like food and you like to drink, Harvest Week is good.
I don't like to do any of those things.
Also, I'll be more than happy to make a contribution.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, awesome. It's always good to finish on a food drink function. All right, being no other comments, meeting is adjourned.